Before I get into my list of the top 5 greatest rebounders, let me first tell you the things I'm considering. 1 is their peak numbers, 2 is their longevity and consistency, 3 is their numbers relative to their era, and 4 is simply the eye test. So now that you guys see the logic, let's get into it. Number 5, Dwight Howard. Especially during his prime, this man was a strong bullying force in the painted area. His peak was during the most deflated era of rebounding in NBA history. And with 3-point shots on the ascension, there was even fewer rebounds to be had for centers. Yet despite all of that, he still got as high as 14.5 rebounds per game in 2012. He led the league in rebounds per game 5 times in the span of 6 seasons, and his 5 rebounding titles is tied with Bill Russell for the 4th most in NBA history. He was able to achieve these feats thanks to his incredible strength and his tremendous leaping ability. Once those aspects of his athleticism started to diminish, so did his gaudy rebounding numbers. Regardless, at his best, he was clearly the best rebounder that the game had to offer. Number 4, Moses Malone. This 6'10" Hall of Famer was nicknamed the chairman of the boards, and for good reason, as he was easily the game's greatest rebounder of his era. Beyond that, I think it's pretty indisputable that he was the greatest offensive rebounder of all time, as he's the game's all-time leader in that category by a wide margin. And that's not just a product of his longevity either. In fact, Malone has all of the top 3 spots for the highest seasonal average of offensive rebounds per game. In total, Moses led the league in rebounds per game 6 times in his career, getting as high as 17.6 in 1979. His intelligence and hustle led him to be an absolute monster on the boards. And if second chance opportunities are something that means a lot to your rankings, then you could certainly argue that he should be even higher. Number 3, Bill Russell. This legend is usually overshadowed for the fact that he was the 2nd highest rebounder of his own era. But with that being said, he's still definitely worthy of a top 5 spot. Over the entirety of his career, he averaged 22.5 rebounds per game, which is utterly insane, and he got as high as 24.7 in 1964. Now obviously, the 1960s were the most inflated era ever when it comes to getting rebounds, and I'll touch on that more in a bit. But even with that being considered, Russell's numbers were still wildly impressive. He led the NBA on a per-game basis 5 times in his career, and he was able to do this for a couple of reasons. For one, he had a relentless motor, and was one of the fiercest competitors of sports history. But beyond that, he was also a world-class leaper, who had the opportunity to compete as an Olympian leaper, but instead declined to prioritize his basketball career. Regardless of the era you drop him in, Russell is dominating the boards. Number 2, Dennis Rodman. I gotta be honest, I very nearly put this guy in the number 1 spot, and at some point in the years to come, I just might. The Worm doesn't quite have the rebounding numbers of the greats from the 1960s, but what you need to understand is that Rodman played in a much slower era, with fewer possessions, fewer missed shots, and less shots close to the basket due to the 3-point line. Despite the fact that there was less opportunities to get rebounds, Rodman still averaged as high as 18.7 boards per game in 1992. He led the league in rebounding a whopping 7 straight seasons, and in every one of those seasons, the second place finisher wasn't even close. When Rodman averaged 18.7 boards per game in 1992, the average team was averaging 43.7 per game. When Wilt Chamberlain averaged 27.2 rebounds in 1961, the average team was getting 73.3 rebounds a night. So this means there was an average of roughly 60 more rebounding opportunities a night in the 1960s compared to when Rodman played. If you prorate Rodman's 1992 season to the 1961 season, based on the percentage of rebounds he got, he would have averaged a stunning 31.4 rebounds per game, which is easily the highest ever. With Rodman's endless motor, his insane athleticism, and with his all-time great positioning, I truly believe he could have averaged 30 a game in the 60s. But that's just hypotheticals, and what the guy in the number 1 spot did is all based on facts. Number 1. Wilt Chamberlain. Even with the statistically inflated era, you have to marvel at what Wilt was able to achieve. He has endless rebounding records, like when he secured 55 rebounds in a game while competing against Bill Russell, which immediately destroys the narrative that he was only able to do it because of the inferior competition. Or like how he averaged 27 rebounds per game in back-to-back seasons. Wilt Chamberlain doesn't just have the record for the most total rebounds in a single season, but he also has the 2nd spot, the 3rd spot, the 4th spot, the 5th spot, the 6th spot, and the 7th. His legendary strength and athleticism helped him accomplish these feats, and he had the average 6'10" centers who were opposing him looking like inferior high school students. Here is my list of honorable mentions. Should any of these players have been in the top 5 instead? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.